So last week, I could literally feel the cortisol running through my body. I had a feeling of tension. This part especially was tense in my muscles. I could literally feel my blood pressure was elevated and my sleep was disturbed. I was tired and I just had a general sense of malaise. And even the smartwatch here was telling me that my stress was at a higher level than normal. And so it was obvious to me that I was stuck in a stress response in fight, flight, or freeze mode, and that I really needed to do something about it. Now, typically, as a psychologist, my first thing is to look at the why, what's going on. And, as someone living in the world today with all the uncertainty going on, and as someone who is, a dual citizen, I was born and raised in Canada, but I live in the US now. I knew that all of the uncertainty and chaos that's going on in the world was really taking a toll. And as someone who likes to be informed and educated, I had been very much keeping up with the news. So I knew all of the chaos that was going on from a geopolitical perspective and the tariffs and trade and one thing happening one day and then the next thing, something else is happening. And so it was a lot of stress for me. That uncertainty, which our bodies don't like, was really feeding my anxiety. I'm someone who pretty much has a pretty good self-care routine. So, I go to the gym, I play tennis, I journal, I meditate, I kind of know how to reframe things. But none of it was really working. So I knew that I needed something more. So what I turned to were called bottom-up approaches to managing stress. And so in this video, I am going to explain top-down and bottom-up approaches to stress. And then I'm also going to go through some of the things that worked for me that maybe if you're in a similar state, you might want to try. Okay, so when we talk about managing stress, there are basically two different approaches that we can use to manage it. The first are what's called top-down approaches. Essentially what these approaches are sort of using your mind to affect your body. So these are things that, I usually tend to start with. Things like reframing a situation, practicing mindfulness, the meditation that I do, the journaling that I do, looking at what I'm telling myself about a situation. And so these are what we call top-down approaches. Now, on the other hand, we have what are called bottom-up approaches. And these are basically approaches in which you calm your body to calm your mind. And so these are things that directly engage your nervous system, your senses, and what they do is they calm the stress response in order to signal to your brain that you're safe. And so, what I knew is that sometimes when your brain is too overwhelmed and you have racing thoughts or too much is going on, then you can't even necessarily access some of the mental and mind-based responses. And so what you need to do is really focus on how can I settle my body so that I can get to a space where I can even think clearly. And so that's what I went to do. I found some approaches that worked for me. And so I'm going to share what I did. And, if you're in a similar state that I was, try them out. Okay, so the first body-based approach that I used was yoga. And I, first started doing this one just because I was so tight up here and my whole body was tight and I knew that it was more than just muscle soreness from the gym. And so I just found a video on YouTube. I'll share it below in case it's helpful for you. And just took the time to get really present with my body and stay in some long stretches. What I find is that without fail, I don't know if you can hear my cats running by, but hopefully they're not affecting the video. They seem to have the zoomies. But anyway, what I find is that when I do this yoga that's restorative, I like gentle yoga where you're just like on the ground doing long stretches. It's not something that is intense. But whenever I do it, I always feel better afterwards, like every single time. So that's one thing that I like to do. Another approach that I do that isn't really as pleasant as yoga, but it works, is foam rolling. And if you haven't heard of it, foam rolling is basically where you take a long cylinder made of foam, Here's mine, looks like this. And you roll your body over it. So, you might do stretches for your hamstrings or your quads or your upper back or your back. And it really helps to release your tight muscles. And again, just give your body a sense of being relaxed. Another stretch that I really love to do on the foam roller, I'm not going to demonstrate it just because setting this up would be weird. But if I have it like in this position, and then I lie down on it like this, and I put my arms out like this and just like sit there for a good set of minutes, it's really relaxing. I can feel my nervous system calming down. It's a great stretch across my pecs and my upper back, and it's really relaxing. So I encourage you to try it out. If you haven't done foam rolling before, you can look it up on YouTube. They have all kinds of videos that will walk you through how to foam roll. Like I said, it can be unpleasant at first, but if you keep at it across time, then what you do is you loosen the fascia in your body. I'm not going to go into a whole explanation of foam rolling, but you make your body more flexible and it's not as tight, and so it feels better across time. So that's one thing you can do. Another practice that I was engaging in last week is something called somatic shaking. And this is literally as it sounds. You just shake your body from head to toe. And where this comes from is if you ever notice an animal in the wild who's gone through some sort of traumatic situation, like maybe it was being chased by a predator, or there's a video on YouTube you can find where a polar bear is hit by a tranquilizer dart, what the animal will do after the thing has been over is it'll instinctively shake, almost like they're like shaking off the tension and to start discharging the stress from their bodies. We don't tend to do that as humans, but it can be helpful to do it just to get stress out of your body. And so something that you can do is just like literally turn on some music and just start like shaking around. Or there are, again, videos on YouTube that have somatic shaking. I'll share one in the description box below if I remember to put it there. And what you'll find, again, is that it's just another way to relax your body. And in so doing, it'll also relax your mind. Okay, a third thing that you can do is much more pleasant than foam rolling or even, somatic shaking if you feel silly doing it. And it's something that you do pretty much every day. It's a hot shower. And again, it's a great way of calming your nervous system and relaxing. The warmth helps to relax your muscles and give your body the sense of safety and calm. Now, the key for getting the most benefit out of a hot shower is not just to do it mindlessly. Like I take a lot of mindless hot showers and it doesn't have the same effect, but to really be present when you're in the shower and really letting your senses get engaged. So, this would be doing things like really feeling the water on your skin, maybe inhaling the steam if you're using soap, which I would hope you would in a shower, really like engaging your sense of smell, and just really enjoying the whole experience, really giving yourself a sense to relax. You might also want to, this might sound weird, but you might also want to sing or hum when you're showering, because what singing or humming does, actually the vibration stimulates the vagus nerve in your body, which is something that also activates your parasympathetic nervous system and helps to calm you down. And if you're someone who is braver than I am, you could also take a cold shower. That can also activate the parasympathetic nervous system. I personally can't take a cold shower. I find it like too unpleasant, but a lot of people get some benefit from that as well. Okay, fourth thing that you can do is get good quality sleep. And sleep is generally considered a bottom-up approach because when you sleep, your body goes into a state of repair where your hormones are regulated, it calms down inflammation, and it restores your nervous system. And so this naturally can help to reduce tension. Now, the thing about getting good quality sleep is that sometimes if your mind is too activated, it's harder to get good quality sleep. So there are elements of sleep that are bottom up, but then you might need to do a top down approach to be able to sleep effectively. And so, to do the top down approach to get better quality sleep, engage in good sleep hygiene, give yourself a chance to wind down. What else might you do? There are different like cognitive things that you can do before sleep. I'll put a link to an article I wrote on that in the description box below. But also I would just say, like, if you're someone who doesn't prioritize sleep, not because you have issues with insomnia, but you just don't do it, then I would encourage you to make sure that you're giving your body adequate time to rest. Okay, 2 more. So the next one is deep breathing. Again, on YouTube, you can find all kinds of breathwork videos. The ones that I tend to do, like if I just need to relax in the moment, like say at the grocery store and I'm not gonna like shake my body out while I'm there, would be just simple things like belly breathing, or diaphragmatic breathing we call it, where you sort of breathe through your stomach. Not through your stomach, but you focus on like expanding a balloon in your stomach, and then imagine like deflating that balloon. That can activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Also, if you do a longer exhale than inhale, those are just some simple ways to calm your nervous system. And then the last thing that's really simple but powerful is something called the butterfly hug. And this one actually comes from EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing Therapy. And basically, these sort of approaches do what's called a bilateral approach, where you're activating both sides of your body. And so the way that you do a butterfly hug is really simple. You just cross your hands like this. If you want, sometimes you don't have to cross your hands if that's more comfortable for you. And you just tap gently on both sides. You can close your eyes. Take deep breaths as you're doing it. And if you do it just for a little bit, you'll find your body gets calmer. And again, it just signals to your brain the message that it's safe to relax. And so it's a really simple way for nervous system regulation. So in addition to doing those body-based routines, which I still do those practices, I also set some boundaries for myself. One thing that I did was I had previously turned off the notifications on my phone, but what I did instead was I just completely uninstalled social media. And what I found was I would find myself still reaching for my phone to get a dopamine hit after I, had uninstalled it. So that was good information for me, just to know how much I was instinctively reaching for it. That's been a game changer for me. The other thing is I was consuming news content like right before I would go to bed, which obviously was not the most useful thing for a restful sleep. So I set boundaries around how much news I consume. And, I still stay informed, but I don't need to be drowning in information. And so that also has helped me to have more space for calm. And the result is I feel a lot better this week. My smartwatch is telling me the same thing. And, most of all, I'm not feeling that physical tension. And, I think that having stress, obviously, at this particular junction in time is normal. And I think, it is helpful, I guess, just to know that there's uncertainty and that you're concerned about it. But by the same token, if my body's in this fight, flight, freeze phase 24/7, that's not doing me any favors. It's not doing my long-term health any favors. And so really, by being able to manage my stress response, it's, I guess taking a better long-term approach for being able to really manage what's happening in the moment. And it's just making me more resilient and grounded as I'm managing all the uncertainty. So anyway, I hope this video is helpful for you. If you would benefit from coaching to help you with this sort of thing, feel free to reach out. And also, I'm trying to expand my channel. I'm trying to do videos more often. You might have noticed that. So if this was at all helpful for you, like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment about strategies that are helpful for you.